Hey everyone, we have a trade to talk about. We also are going to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs and Joseph Woll coming back, a potential Leafs target. We're also going to talk about other NHL news, so if you're on the video, I hope you subscribe. If you haven't yet, drop your comments down below and hit that like button. I really appreciate the support. Also, if you're watching this video, let me know if you want me to go live later for either the Leafs and Sabres game, maybe just mix in some Blue Jays reactions. I know it's baseball, but World Series, and then just being a Toronto guy. But also at the same time, it is Friday night. I felt like HTH After Dark hasn't been around in a while. So if you guys want that, I know some of the OGs know what I'm talking about. Maybe a late night stream. So let me know if any of that interests you. Just getting into the conversation. So Lukas Reichel, former first-round pick of the Chicago Blackhawks, goes to the Vancouver Canucks for a fourth-round pick. I know some people are going to get on Kyle Davidson's case because asset management or whatever you want to talk about, it just kept going on, and now his value has gotten down to a fourth-round pick. There's so much things I want to talk about. I mean, Ben Pope, who covers the Blackhawks pretty closely, if you guys want to go check out his article, just talked about like the underwhelming, anticlimactic process of what Lukas Reichel was in Chicago. This quote was pretty big time, right? Reichel, meanwhile, probably didn't work hard enough to improve during off seasons before 2025, nor was he proactive enough in 23-24 to address his shattered confidence before it derailed the season. He didn't arrive in Chicago with nearly as much maturity as Frank Nazar. That's a huge factor here. Also, them just trying to decide if Reichel was a top six winger, a center. What was he? In his draft year, he compared himself to now teammate Elias Pettersson. So that's kind of a funny thing that came up. Pierre LeBrun adds to it and goes, Reichel had asked for a trade, looking for a better fit elsewhere. Reichel's agent says things were not contentious. He credits Blackhawks GM Kyle Davidson for how things were handled, says they had been discussing it for a while. If you guys go all the way back to the start of the season, it was rumored that it was not going to be more than a mid-round pick, and that's what it ends up being. So there's other guys out there. I mean, Yegor Chinnikov, if you just kind of go on Pierre LeBrun's page, he actually talked about it a lot today, just talking about how his name's out there, and teams like the Leafs, the Sabres, they're in on these conversations. It's funny because Kekalainen, who used to be, of course, the GM of the Columbus Blue Jackets, he was kind of a big advocate of Chinnikov, and now you kind of look at it, it's interesting because he's kind of on the outs with Columbus with their new management. It hasn't worked out. He's kind of been on the outs in general, like in terms of finding a fit with Columbus. But Pierre LeBrun writes a couple articles and talks about that. So we're going to see what happens with Chinnikov, but it seems like there's a few teams in on him. And of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs potentially moving on from Nick Robertson, who, as I'm recording this video, is a healthy scratch, it looks like, for tonight's game against the Leafs with the Leafs and Sabres. So I think Robertson, Chinnikov, we've already talked about that. So we'll see what happens, but kind of a tidbit there. Just for Canucks fans, what you're getting in Lukas Reichel, I know I kind of skipped over that, but like I said, it's a guy that's got that pure, untapped skill that maybe can be utilized with the Canucks, who need a top six forward, maybe specifically need a second-line center. I don't know if he's going to fill that role, but Elias Pettersson's becoming a huge problem, guys. So maybe looking at Reichel and Pettersson, maybe they can just find to balance off each other, to bounce ideas off each other, what the pure skill can look like in Vancouver, because there's more and more rumors and speculation, guys, that I'm hearing about Elias Pettersson, his struggles, and what's going to be next for Vancouver, because there's been so many trade rumors. I think some Canucks fans would like to rewind the clock and maybe do that trade that would have brought Martin Necas to Vancouver and sent Elias Pettersson to the Carolina Hurricanes. I don't know what the scenario was there. Of course, Elias Pettersson continues to struggle, so let's talk about also Joseph Woll now, because he is back with the team. So I'm kind of going all over the place here because it's just latest NHL news, but Leafs PR, the Leafs announced today that goaltender Joseph Woll is rejoining the team and will resume team activities and on-ice participation as part of the return-to-play process. So I actually don't know. I'm not going to speculate, guys. I know I have some people that just we're talking Leaf stuff, and I find out some things, I don't find out other things, but you know what? I just want Woll to be okay. I think a lot of people are just on side with the guy being okay, right? So we really don't know what's going on. I'm sure some people know, and they're rightfully so respecting the process and not spilling the beans. I at one point thought maybe it was family related. Again, I'm not going to speculate past the fact that Woll is okay. We don't know what it was, but clearly it was something in terms of his well-being, because the LTIR thing. But at the same time, it's kind of like that question mark of overall the NHL. And again, I'm not speculating on Woll. I'm speculating on how the NHL's process works. Because if you rewind to last year, when Aaron Ekblad got, we'll say punished, got the consequences for the PEDs what happened there in terms of cap savings and all that. It was so like made unclear what the NHL's process is in terms of evaluating those situations when a guy's out and the team doesn't have the player, what kind of cap relief based on each situation. I know there's some rules in writing, but at the same time, there's so many different situations, and then what like warrants a player to be submitted into the player assistance program, like if it's a mental health factor or if it's more of a physical health. Like, there's just so many of those layers and so many of those gray areas. I think, again, just to summarize, Joseph Woll being back is good news. So we're going to see. Again, it's going to take some time probably for him to return completely to game action, regardless of what he's going through. And then at some point, I'm sure he will be in front of the media. The media is going to ask him questions. We don't know what the answers are going to be. And frankly, I think the media shouldn't ask those questions. Obviously, people have their jobs to do, but that's a conversation in itself. So give me your thoughts, guys, on what you think on everything I talked about in this video. Again, call me your thoughts on what you want to see for future videos. If you want to see live streams from me in certain contexts, whether it's like covering the game or just like HTH After Dark late night games, you know what? I'll talk about a few other things. But again, Elias Pettersson struggles, comment on that. Leafs, Blue Jackets, Canucks trades, all that stuff. The Sabres, I think they're cooking. Obviously, I just quickly will address it, but I might do a full video on it one day or sometime soon. Josh Doan is making that trade, I would say, attractive for the Sabres. When they traded J.J. Peterka to Utah, got Josh Doan, and got Kesselring, I said, you know what, on the surface, it didn't look good. Kevin Adams looking like he's going to get let go by this team if they don't make the playoffs this year. Well, we'll see. They're in around 500. That doesn't change much for me at this point. But Josh Doan, if he continues to show what he's been doing, him along with Zach Benson are huge bright spots for that team. So I could go over so much from so many different teams, guys. But give me your thoughts. Again, I got to talk about other stuff too, like the Lightning. What's going on there? Comment your thoughts on what you want to see on this channel, and I will address and just share my thoughts on some of these things happening in the NHL. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great one. See you soon. Peace.